Okay, so I think it's time to talk about Alchemist. Oh, and I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Dari, and I'm a bookstagrammer, book blogger, booktuber, book talker, whatever, and I'm also a writer. And today we're gonna talk about the book that broke me in the best possible way. It's called Alchemist, so let's go. And it's gonna be a loud a word, but this book has been the best one I've ever read in this genre. Like in dark fantasy, it's the best one because it breaks you to million pieces while you're reading this. And this video is gonna have spoilers, so if you haven't read Alchemist, please, I think you should skip this one and come back to it once you are ready to discuss the things that I'm gonna tell you today. I've spent a lot of time crying over this book, and I guess it's finished now. Well, the final one. Ironic. First of all, I want you to demonstrate how much annotations I have in this one. It's like a lot of them. I think it's the second most annotated book in my collection, and the sprayed edges are beautiful. But I also wanted to show you a special copy, which is, this is just the hardback, and this is another hardcover, but this one is first edition, and it has an autograph of Sam Yu. It's the first edition and it's signed edition, and this one is really beautiful. I really love how they did the Ouroboros on the cover. The back cover is also the same as front, like here, but in general it's just the hardback, and yeah. But mostly I've been reading just the paperback because it was easier, but it still was heavy. Like, it's over 1,000 pages long. 1,028 to be exact. And I just finished this one yesterday. Just yesterday. And I've been staring at the wall for a couple of hours after I did that. The first topic that has triggered me deeply, it was about the FMC female main hero of this book, Helen Marino, and it was about that the Eternal Flame, like the whole resistance organization, they treated her like she was nothing, even though she was the main healer in the hospital, okay? And she's done a lot of things to help the Eternal Flame, okay? Especially trading the information with the enemy. And they still treated her badly. That was a devastation in its fullest, because I just felt it in my bones. I cannot stand this type of things, and when I just saw it in the book, I've been constantly offended and I've been crying a lot because I've seen all the efforts that she was doing, but they just did not appreciate it. And that's the quiet devastation that just goes throughout the whole book. And especially the last quote slaps you in the face, which is said, let me just say it out loud. There is a picture in the magazine that I recently cried over this like for an hour or so. There is like the last picture from the newspaper or magazine, whatever, in the world, and it says like, yeah, this is Helen. And it says, She was a non-active member of the order. Or I can't speak. Sorry. She was a non-active member of the Order of the Eternal Flame and did not fight. The quiet devastation that broke me, that they just erased her from any history books. And that was her daughter's devastation as well. Her daughter's name is Enid. And I just felt it, like, with my whole soul. Because her daughter was actually crying and over everything, because she knew everything that her mother has done to actually try to win this war, to contribute to the war, and that people just erased her from the history. And the people that has just erased her from the history, saying that she was nothing but a non-active member of the Order of the Eternal Flame. That slaps you in the face. Really slaps you. And the whole point, I mean, I get why people were telling the High Reeve was like a monster and all that, but we know, those who know their story, they know that he was doing all of this for Helen and for his mother, of course, in the first place, but then it was because of Helen. And it honestly breaks you to realize that she also said that, by the way, that she turned him into a monster, that she made him her monster. And this also shook me. Like, I needed a break after this quote. As you can see, there is another version of, it's, I don't even know of this, but like, first, we all know that the fanfiction that has been called Manacle has been adapted to an original work, Alchemised, and it's been redone beautifully. Like, there is a whole new world, the whole new cast of characters, and everything is new. That's why I had a really hard time getting into this one, because the magic system, the alchemy is really hard for me to understand, and it's still hard for some elements of it. But the first 500 pages, it was a struggle for me, and I am a fantasy reader, but it was just really hard to get into this one. But when I got into it, I couldn't let it go. I was devouring pages, and then after reading part 1 and part 2, I had to go back to reread the part 1 to refresh my memories, because it's been actually like over 800 pages. And I also noticed a lot of stuff that I haven't noticed during my first read. So apparently I've read, like, including with the rereading some parts of it, over 1,500 pages. Yeah, that's how deep it is, and it's really that deep. But I just wanted you to show the art. I think the original artwork goes to Avondale, but I just wanted to have something from her in my book, but I couldn't find any copies with her art, so I tried to redraw them myself, and that's how it went. And also, I think I drew something in the part 2. Let me just check it real quick. Oh yeah, it's this one. Oh. And I also did some coloring in part 3. But it's just a rose, you know. I cannot find it. Oh, okay. And this is the part 3. So you see how small part 3 is. And this is like the main parts of the story. This is just the ending. And this is really the big dark fantasy debut of 2025. It is. It is the biggest one of them. Okay, I think we should continue. So I've been talking about the fanfiction that this one has originated from. It's called Manacle. I have a physical copy of it because I was obsessed with it once it was there as this one. It's a hard copy book bind with Avondale arts, like original arts from her. Like this. And this one is pretty, it's really beautiful. But I mean, of course it hasn't been formatted properly and so on because, well, it was a fanfiction, nobody cared about good formatting or other stuff. Oh, I found my favorite art. Oh, this one. I wish that original work had some, you know, arts in it. I don't know. I just kind of wanted it. My relationship with this book was quite like enemies to lovers. And let me tell you why. First of all, when I met Kane, I was like, oh my god. Someone is yelling outside. Love my neighbors. When I met Kane for the first time, I was like, why are you so toxic to Helena? And then I realized in the part 2, when all the truth came out from nowhere, I was just like, oh, that's why. But first, I hated Kane so much. I despised him for his attitude towards Helen, but then I just switched immediately when I knew all the truth, and I felt so embarrassed over it. And then the other half of the book is probably the final 500 pages. I was crying over him like every chapter because I literally knew through which exact hell he's been through. And it's been hell for him. Just imagine that you are Kane and you just wanted to avenge your mother, and then you go to a resistance, like to your enemy's territory, and say that I want revenge, I want to kill Morrow, and literally you just sell information from your enemy to your other enemy, because he wasn't really a fan of Morrow, let's be honest. Like, in the first place, he hated like both sides. He was just there because he wanted to avenge his mother, and he just didn't care about the world and what's gonna happen with it because his mother was already dead, and he was devastated about it, and he also wanted to be dead as well. That's why he allowed Morrow to treat him like, ooh, that's a hard one, because he's been hurt for so much. Yeah, I just need a minute because it's been a hard book, like really hard emotionally book. Kate has been suffering through it all, and when he accidentally told the resistance that, like, hey, yeah, let's make a deal, like, I want her, Helen, and or she's Helena. I can call her like different names, so please don't bother with it, because yeah, I have some issues with characters' names. That's okay. So when he just asked for her, he did not expect anything like from her, especially not to be possessive of her or not to fall in love with her. He did not expect anything of it. But when she started healing him, he fell for her. And you know, when I've been reading this part where Helen was acting so protective of the eternal flame that did not care about her, let me remind you. And she was saying things like, "Oh, I can use his feelings against him to help eternal flame." And I was like, no, he did not deserve it. He did not. And I mean, I get it why she hated him, because he was really, really cold and abusive towards her in the first place. Because he wanted to push her away. I think because he also realized that he was like gathering feelings to her, and she started to get actually involved into this, and well, they both realized that they were fucked. And Cain especially, because he grew really possessive of Helen, and that's been a devastation. I've been crying a lot while reading this, and imagine what happens next. They just like fall in love, they trade information with each other, and resistance loses the war anyway. And Helen, okay, it's gonna be like a very brief plot, but Lila, a friend of Helen and a friend of Luke, that has been like the whole hero of the war and hero of the resistance, he fell, and Lila was pregnant with his kid, and Luke told Helen to like promise me that you're gonna take care of them, of Lila and their kid. It was all because Cain went to save Lila, and he blew out his cover, and Helen was trying to save him, and she went to blew out the lab to erase all the traces about Cain and Lila. And she was captured after all this mission, and Cain thought she was dead for almost like 2 years. That's been like just imagine that you think that your lover is dead for like 2 years, and then you discover them in a stasis tank, literally barely alive and with memory loss, and they're sent to you as a prisoner to be, I cannot say this word out loud, but read by my lips. Because they have a repopulation program, and they have to reproduce some alchemists for Morrow to keep living, and Helena has to be by Cain to produce an heir for them. I mean for Morrow, but you know what I mean. And just imagine the hell he's been through. Like, after he lost his mother, he fell in love with Helen, that actually was not gonna choose him because she was so for the resistance. And she told him about it multiple times, that she's not gonna choose him in the end. And I was so mad about it, because hey, he's the only person that loves you, and you are just throwing him like he's a trash or something. He also loved him back, but it just literally broke me that every time she just chose the eternal flame instead of him. And I was just like, please, no, don't do that. Because Cain did not deserve all these sufferings because of you especially. And then when I switched sides from hating Cain to loving Cain, and supporting Kane, I started to hate Helen a lot because for what she was doing to him. And I mean, she was realizing it, of course, but the whole point of Eternal Flame was to treat her like a trash. And, you know, they've always told her that you are nothing, like, we can replace you, like, by the click of the fingers. And I was just like, girl, have you heard it? Like, you should just go with Kane far, far away. And she was just like, no, I cannot leave my people to suffer. And I was just like, yeah, I get it, but he's the only person that cares about you. Nobody else gives a giant about you. And you are just treating him like he's nothing. That has been truly devastating. How many times I've said devastating or devastation in this video? I should count them, I think. Because this is a devastation. I own a couple of copies of this book. Like, hey, this called Devastation. But, so first part. I think we should talk about the parts of the books because I'm getting distracted by my ADHD thoughts. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. So the first part is about her getting out of the stasis tank, and she's lost all her memories. She doesn't remember Kane at all, and she's sent to his main mansion, Spirefell. I think it's called Spirefell. So she's sent to his mansion that's called Spirefell, and she just doesn't recognize him. He thinks that, I mean, he also knows that she has forgotten most of her memories. She doesn't remember anything about him, and also about like the main points of the war. And they try to recover her memories with Moro, and like the main Vivimancer that tries to recover her memories is Kane, of course, but recovering memories is a very hard process, and it harms the object of your recovery. And Helen suffers from fevers and all these side effects of vivimancy of the brain. And I just need to mention that the first part is really, really hard because they treat her like she was sterilized, I think. So they sent her to repopulation program, and they have to produce an heir for the Moro to keep living, because he needs an animancer. I think that's the word. He needs an animancer to keep living and to transfer his body to a new one to continue living and all this sort of things, because he's dying. That's a spoiler. And the thing is that she just doesn't know him. She doesn't remember him, and she thinks that he's a monster, that he's a high reef, he kills people like with no mercy, and he's like literally a monster to her. And she falls for him anyway, like a Stockholm syndrome. And yeah, that's really hard to read. But then comes part 2, when her memories are getting back. Why, you're gonna ask? Because she got pregnant during this repopulation program. She got pregnant, and she kind of was restricted about the vivimancy of her brain because it's probably gonna kill her kid. And that's it. Yeah, they stopped doing the vivimancy on her brain, and she started to recovering her memories. And that's the part 2. And there we just get into the story between Kane and Helen, and how they met, what was happening between them. And there are like a lot of details. I'm gonna spare you them, but the main things about the second part is that he treated her like in a very toxic way, but I've already told you why. Because he wanted to push her away, he didn't need her, he didn't need another human to care about. But anyway, he fell for her trap and fell in love with her. She also fell in love with him, but you know, she was just resisting all of this, and she was like, oh, I'm all for the resistance. I'm not gonna choose you because I love eternal flame. I was just like, girl, please stop. That's a torture. Like, it's been really hard to read. And in part 2, I started to hate Helen as much as I could. And I switched sides to love Cain as much as I could as well. But it was somewhere in the middle. And then all the things just made sense. A lot of things made sense. And the naivety that Helen had about the resistance was pissing me off all the time. Like, all the time. And Cain was just like so in love with her. I remember. So Helen was badly injured. And Cain saved her life once again. Ooh. And they were planning to get away from the war, to leave things be and just, you know, have a happy life as much as possible after everything that they have witnessed. Yeah, well, but Helen was really stubborn woman, and she told like she's not gonna leave without Lila. That was funny because of Lila, Cain just blew out his cover, and Helen went to save him by blowing out the lab, and she was captured afterwards, and Cain thought that she was dead for like 2 years. And then he met her again in that stasis in the stasis tank, and she's lost all her memories. Perfect. And for all these 2 years, he's been looking for her, like everywhere, and he's been killing everyone because he promised her that if Eternal Flame is gonna harm her in any way, or like, you know, whatever happens to her, that he's gonna erase every member of the Eternal Flame. And he did so. He did, almost. Except Lila. And Lila is alive in the end of the book. And in the third part, so she regains all her memories. She also realizes about everything that had happened, and also that they have saved Lila, and that she's waiting for them, like in some island, or sort of. And then they just trying to escape, and I've been so nervous about the characters if they're gonna make it. Spoiler, they will. But the whole like operation of getting Cain out of the situation and becoming human again after being undying for years, it's been a hard procedure, and I thought that he's not gonna make it, but he did, thankfully, because I was so scared for him. And well, they flew on Amaris to the place where Lila stayed. It was some sort of cottage, and then all together with Lila's kid, that's called Paul, they are getting out of Palladia, and they go to Etras, and they settle there for a couple of years. But then Lila says that she has to kill Moro, and she comes back to Palladia. Her mission is a success, all is great. And then Enid is born as well. And well, she became really close friends to Paul, but Lila takes Paul from Etros with her to Palladia, like back to Palladia, back to her legacy. And yeah, Enid stays alone with her parents, Helen and Cain, on the small island on Etros. But after like, I think it's been 16 years, she just wants to study alchemy in Palladia, and she goes back, and Lila with her son, like grew up son, Paul, they meet Enid, and yeah, that's where she reads the newspaper about the war being like over, the legacy recovered, and the town is just like flourishing and blooming. And that's where she reads that her mother has been literally erased from any history book, and that her father is a monster. And the devastation in her, like, I don't even know. I literally cried for her, for Helen, for Cain, because damn, they deserve something great. But after the horrors of the war, I just think that they just could not live a good quality life after all the horrors. Like, no. And yeah, they kind of got their happy ending, but it's still bittersweet. It's like really, really sad. I think this is all I wanted to talk about Alchemist. I feel really tired of these things, but there are a few quotes that just linger in my mind. About the rose in the graveyard, of course. And I've annotated a lot of them, but I think I'm just gonna read them out loud, like my favorite lines. You know, these parallels from part 2 and part 1. So in part 2, she was massaging his fingers when he was injured, and then when she was injured, he did the same. That's been something that touched my heart, like really, really in a deep way. And you know, when they meet after being separated for 2 years, and he thought that she was dead, she asks him about what kind of ring is that, and he said like, oh, just an old piece. And the rings that they both still wear, but they do not use, it's something devastating as well, like, hello. And also there was a quote in part 1 when he said, but at this point, I suppose I deserve to burn. I wonder if you will burn too. His face was so close, the words brushed against her lips, and his mouth crushed against hers. That was actually the first kiss scene after being apart for 2 years, and it's in the end of chapter 19, if you're interested. And there's been a kiss of devastation. And especially reading this part after finishing part 2 is more hurt than ever. So about the rose. He said, you are like a rose in a graveyard. He said, and his lips twisted into a bitter smile. I wonder what you could have turned into without the war. And she said, I never thought about it. I draw a rose here, by the way. Well, he was hers. The realization broke her heart. When I realized that too, I've been crying, because Cain did not deserve all those sufferings because of her. And Literally the next quote, he says, I can't do this again. He finally gasped out, I can't care for someone again, I can't take it. And she said, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, Kane. She said it again and again. She was apologizing for everything. For the first time, Kane Farron was fully human to her. She slipped through his walls and peeled away the defensive layers of malice and cruelty and found that there he carried a broken heart. She could use that. Okay, when she said she could use that, I was like, excuse me, Helen? What the fuck? Use that? For what? Don't you dare to betray Kane now. No, that's what I wrote. I was really pissed off by that. Like, And when there was a scene where Crowther, oh wait, how was Crowther? When he came to Kane, you know, to prove if he was like a real dog for Helen now. He said bag to him under the closed doors. I was not okay after this. I was not okay. And he did not deserve all of this. And the devastation that Helen thought that she was nothing as well, but she still put Eternal Flame on the pedestal, it also broke me because Kane literally told her every time that you are not expendable. You don't get to push everyone away so that they will feel comfortable using you and letting you die. And I was just like, yes, Kane, but she doesn't understand it. I was so mad. I was so mad. No, I don't know what she has to do. She said like, no, I don't know what you have to do. They don't care about you. Every time he reminded her about this. But she didn't listen. She didn't listen. That's madness. That's really madness. And you know the irony where she actually designed the manacles that she's been placed for like a lot of time. And that she also designed the bomb that has finished the war. But let's finish this on a good note. In the end, they're still on the Etras. I mean, Helen and King. They left alone. Their daughter went to study alchemy in Palladia, and she asks him like, what are we gonna do now? And he replies like, anything you want to. And I just really hope that they just got a little bit of their happy life together, because they deserved it. They deserved a good break from all the horrors that they endured. A masterpiece. Truly, it is a masterpiece that lingers in the heart for eternity. And some books, they change us, but some books, they just stay in our hearts for eternity. Like, really, I don't think that I can get over this. It is something that you will remember forever, and this story is quite different from anything that I've read, and that's why it's gonna be with me forever, I think. But Alchemised is truly a masterpiece. It is. So thank you for watching this, and I hope that we can discuss some points of this book or quotes or whatever you like in the comments. And I would love if you leave some comments under this video and we can discuss any sort of things. You can write anything there. So I hope that I'm gonna see you in the next review, and yes, see you later. Bye.